Good morning. Welcome back to another special Q News interview. My name is Michael James. Now, we've been running our RuCaps recently where we are interviewing all of our eliminated queens from Drag Race Down Under. Today's guest is from the show, but just a little bit special. We have managed to secure one of the judges, and it is none other than our very own Australian judge, Rhys Nicholson. Good morning, Rhys.
Good morning. I'm the queen that can't be voted off. Yay.
What a whirlwind. Like this show has taken off completely unexpectedly, I suppose, out of nowhere for everyone. And it came right, I suppose, off the back of the COVID pandemic. So take me back.
Not even off the back, I would say during.
Yeah, exactly. It's still going. But I mean, take me back, like what was happening for you with all of this COVID mess in 2020 before you got the call that you were doing the show?
I was mostly like all comedians. I'm a stand-up comedian. That's how I pay my bills. I was sitting at home for about 6 months, or doing Zoom shows, which as it turns out, guys, don't work. Zoom comedy, we can keep trying, but it's never getting better. But do tune in. I think like a lot of people that worked in entertainment, especially within Australia and New Zealand, you start to kind of think like, am I still relevant in this time? Like you notice when something like a pandemic happens, the first thing to go is light entertainment because no one wants that anymore. They need hard news. But then, yeah, I gotten, it was when I live in Melbourne and we were like starting to kind of creep out of lockdown. And my agent called me to say, oh, by the way, like Drag Race is kind of being floated around and I've been sent an email and you're on the very long list. And I was like, great, absolutely. And like kind of didn't think about it again for another few weeks because it's like, there was a lot of people on the list. And even my agent was kind of like, don't get your hopes up. There's a lot of people and which is great. And then a few weeks later, on a Sunday morning before 9 a.m., my agent called me, which is always bad news. You never want to, like, your agent calling you before 9 a.m. plus a Sunday means like, oh, I'm being cancelled. Like they've found the tweets. But no, she said that she was crying, and she said he picked you, and I was like, had no context for what she was talking about. I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, RuPaul. He picked you personally. He wants you to be the other judge. And then we were filming within a month. I was like, went into quarantine a couple of weeks later, came out of quarantine and we started filming. And so it's been, and I told you off air, I've not been home since then. I'm in Canada right now doing another job. So it's like, for me, it's been more bizarre because I didn't go to the premiere. I didn't go to I don't have a scope for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm watching episodes by myself in my service department in Vancouver. I'm not at the parties. I'm not at the viewing parties and stuff. So I have no I don't know. It's odd.
You're in this bubble.
I gave you a very long answer. Yeah, it's my own. I'm in a different travel bubble.
Oh, that's amazing. So there was a long shortlist, I suppose. Did you even get to see any of the other names on that list?
Nah. Oh God, no. I know that they were going for there'd be I'd imagine the people you expect to be on that list. Think of any gay comedian in Australia and they would have been on that list. But I found out, that Ru had seen, my theory is that he saw my stand-up. Like I have a Netflix special and he tweeted about it a couple of weeks before. And so I kind of figured I was on the radar. But
wow.
Yeah.
That's because he doesn't do a lot of things like that. So for him to actually be out there tweeting about you, I mean, that's kind of a big thing.
Yeah, it's just me and Kylie Minogue. Very similar acts.
Now, like you raised an interesting point that I noticed when you were picked, and you said like there was a whole lot of people out on the radar. I kind of felt like it was a bit of a punch in the face for you with some of the public's reaction. I think there was a lot of people like they're talking about judges and they're going, oh, it's going to be Courtney Act. Oh, it's going to be Joel Creasy. Oh, it could be Kylie Minogue. And went, oh, it's Rhys Nicholson. And all these assholes on the internet started going, who?
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of that? What was that like to deal with?
Like kind of, but like that just, that's the internet. Like, and it's, who cares? Like truly one of the last things RuPaul said to all of us, like on the last day of shooting, was like made a point of saying to the last four queens, like, you know, you're going to change lives. You're all incredible. Don't look in the fucking comments, because particularly I would even say, you know, I think it's a specifically just fan thing, but specifically with shows like this at the moment, shows like Drag Race, create this. It's not, and look, this is a broad generalization, but there is this kind of reaction to it where, you know, it is this really stunning and great show. Like Drag Race as a concept, as a franchise, is an incredible thing. And because it's so incredible, people become really attached to it. And so when, you know, their favorite person wasn't picked to be the judge, they're like, well, I'm angry about this. And I would say I hope I've changed their minds. Like I've had a lot of fun doing it, and I've not had too many, like I'm not looking really, like I've not searched my name on Twitter. I'm not, if you're tagging me in things, good on you. I'm not looking at them, because it's just such an odd reaction to, I've never tweeted a mean thing about someone and made sure that they saw it. Like it just seems like a bizarre thing to me. It's like, I don't know. I did see some of those things, and it's just like, it's boring, because no one was. Did you know who Michelle Visage was before? Like she was picked. Did you know who Ross Matthews was before the show? Did you know who? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, like I don't want to be all like, well, but it's just a boring take. It's such a boring take, because nobody's heard of anybody until they've heard of them. And by the way, and without wanting to sound like an absolute dick, I've got a Netflix special. I've been doing stand-up for 12 years, and I've been on Conan. Like, so I'm fine. I don't care if you've never heard of me. I've been on stuff and I'm around.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, there is any need to justify these things. You don't have to. Rue doesn't have to. As you said, nobody knew who Michelle Visage was. Nobody wants to say that they knew who Ross Matthews was. Anybody in Australia that was watching that show and wants to pretend like they knew who they were is kidding themselves. Like, it's just the people that want to be assholes on Twitter.
But that's the thing. That's what, and if anyone's still using Twitter properly, like still, I find it so funny that people are still using it as like a legitimate means of information or opinion, because at this moment it's just a bucket of shit.
That's just the perfect description. I love it. Now, look, you raised a very valid point about, I suppose, proving them wrong, and you did. Like, I think, and I've said it multiple times in my recaps, you were probably one of the MVPs for the entire season in what you brought to that judging panel. Yeah, it was great. You were witty and you were on point, and you know there have been critiques of other judges on other international seasons, but you really kind of nailed the brief. Did you do a lot of prepping for that? Was a lot of like pre-planned responses that you were going to do? Was that just all off the cuff and you living in the moment for the show?
No, it is pretty, like, you do as much prep as you can. Michelle was really nice to me. And Michelle, I think Michelle Visage is perhaps the best TV presenter in the world. Rue's incredible as well, but Michelle is everyone that works on the show is an absolute pro, but she just has this, like, as soon as we met, we were both in quarantine at the same time in different hotels, but and she sent me her number and was like, we Zoomed together, and she basically just gave me a how-to of what's going to happen in the show. Like, she's been doing this for over a decade, and she just really, our dressing rooms were next to each other. She's really supported me. And I would say that she is the one that kind of, and I've been trying to say this as much as possible, she kind of got me through the first couple episodes, because I was so scared. Because it's one thing to get the job. It's another thing to then be sitting next to RuPaul for a few weeks and Michelle and be in it, doing it. And I love the show. I'm a huge fan and I'm obsessed with the show. But it's one thing to be judgy at home. It's another thing to actually try and do it in real life. And so she was really, if you actually notice in the first two episodes, I don't say much because I'm just so wide-eyed and I cannot believe I'm here. But then, what was interesting for me was, and I don't know if this is tea or not, but what you see on the runways is kind of the timing of it. When they walk down, so all our little jokes and stuff are not pre-prepared. You can't, because we see the runway once and then they come back around again and that's when we do the jokes. So you've got about a minute and a half to think of our little puns. So there's really Michelle made a point to me on the first day I was like, so because I kind of thought, oh, there'll probably be like a couple writers around, and like, you know, someone will be feeding us lines if we can't think of anything. No. She went, no, there's no time for that. They go around once and then we do the jokes. And then they all come out and we start doing the critiques. Like, it's all very fast. And so no, there was kind of no, I mean this in a positive way, it was a bit of a baptism by fire. Like, I didn't really know, by not knowing what I was doing. And this is what I think. I think I had to give myself over to just having a good time. Like, I have watched like a few of the episodes. Like, I tend not to watch stuff that I'm in, but because I don't see any of the workroom stuff, I've been watching the show with like new eyes. Like, oh, so that's why she was grumpy at her. Oh, I see. But I don't know, I loved the show so much, and I couldn't get over the fact that I was there. So me watching myself now doing it, it's like, God, look at me having a good time. Like, the proper, when, you know, in the last episode, like the most recent one, Art wearing the headdress with the butterflies flying around and stuff. Yep. Like, that was so gobsmackingly pretty on the, like, there's been episodes where they've had to cut out how psyched I was about certain things. Like, I think it was like getting to it was like, okay, this is seeming a bit Make-A-Wish at this point. Like, I was just like excited for people, and like the footage they've had to cut of me during lip syncs of just absolutely feeling my oats, and just because to be in the room during a lip sync for your life, I can't explain it. Like, it is genuinely electric and exciting and weird to be there. And so, no, I feel like I've taken a long time to answer a very simple question, but I couldn't really prepare. I just kind of had to do it, I guess.
Oh, long answers are good, and that's amazing. It's great insight into what that was like, because it must just be surreal. Like, I could
yes.
see what you mean. Like, to just be suddenly like sitting there shitting yourself beside RuPaul. Go, oh fuck, RuPaul's here.
I'm suddenly sitting 2 feet away from RuPaul. Like, who, you know, I won't reveal her age, but you can look that up. And in person, she looks about 20 years younger than me, and I'm 31. Like, she's so stunning in real life, and everything is, I had such a good time.
She's amazing, but we will have to carbon date her to get her age. But
yes.
Now
cut her in half, count the rings.
Speaking of RuPaul, so I suppose take me through, what was the first meeting with Ru like? The first time you were in there in person in front of them, what happened?
We met in like a day or two before filming started. So we met like in the studio. Like, she was around. Just because we weren't in the same country, we'd been on email chains. And then suddenly I was like, I've said this before, like I think it might have been even in the press release, but the first thing she said to me was genuinely, "Hi, Rhys, welcome to the family," and it was like, oh, you are my chosen family. Because it takes a minute to comprehend, like, she's an icon, and I've not met many icons. And then suddenly you're like working with one. And she was just really kind and funny. I think I'd vaguely prepared when you know that you're going to meet someone very famous, you kind of prepare yourself a little bit to like, well, they might be a monster, and that's okay. Like, they're very famous and they've probably gone a bit mad. And I prepared myself just in case, like, if she doesn't make eye contact with me, whatever, it's fine. I'm on the show. She was so, the word I keep using is like interested, like, because we'd sit there between shots and we're kind of just sitting around, and I was just kind of led into this friendship group. It just suddenly became the three of us talking about the Chemist Warehouses we like going in Auckland CBD. And she was like asking me all about my family. And like, I think what a lot of people don't really think about with RuPaul is how really fucking funny he is. Like, in life, I think on the show sometimes there's this thought, and I feel like the fan base has kind of done this, created this ethereal being out of her, this kind of floating, like, she kind of just is, she lives in that studio. But it's like, RuPaul has like a really dark, really weird, funny sense of humor. She's obsessed with Auntie Donna. So like, I'm like really good friends with Auntie Donna, the sketch group.
Those three guys that none of us had any idea who the fuck they were. Well, I didn't anyway.
Another example, they have a Netflix TV show. They're really, really, really famous. And just because a couple of gay people don't know who they are, suddenly they're not relevant. They're like hugely famous. And Ru is really, they're kind of like Monty Python-esque kind of surrealist comedy. And Ru's obsessed with them and so got them on the show, which they were incredibly shocked about. But like, he's just, I think people kind of think of him as this elevated being who's like, you know, floating above culture, but he's like immersed in it. And he's got an encyclopedic knowledge of music. An example I keep using is like when they were doing a Kylie song. No, when Kylie was on the show, Ru was like, what's your favorite Kylie song? And I said, oh, well, actually, like, because of my age, I'm kind of, my era is like around spinning around and stuff, but I'm really obsessed with Slow. I think Slow is like, it's just a great song. And I watched Ru go, okay. And I was like, oh, I feel like you've just made a choice about me. You've made a decision about me due to my choice of Slow. And I don't know what the decision is. But yeah, long story short, he's really funny and really sweet and really interested and really lovely.
Well, it's great.
And smart. Yeah.
It's good that you got to, I suppose, you know, you meet an idol and they didn't destroy your hopes and dreams, because it's so easy that they can do that.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So it's amazing. So from Ru and Michelle, obviously the queens, did you get to spend any time with them off camera, any time aside from the main stage, or is that it? That's the only time you interacted with them?
It's just, it's kind of part of the vibe, I think, is that you don't. Like, it's like, so you judge specifically. Sometimes I was kind of offered information of like, do you want to know what happened in the workroom today? And I kind of preferred not to, because I feel like my job is, personally, I took my job as the judge is to judge this. I'm not judging your personalities. I'm judging, and look, there are some of the queens I kind of know a little bit, like, because we live in Australia and we all, like, I live in Melbourne and there's a bunch, and I go to gay bars and I like getting drunk. But I wanted to just judge what was happening in front of me at the time. So a lot of the time I didn't know any of like the kind of arguments that were happening or anything like that, any of the drama. So what was your question again? Yeah.
I was asking if you got to know them off camera.
Not really, like, not in a cold, distant way. Like, we'd kind of, when they're standing there on the runway and they're setting up a camera, you're like, hello, how's your day? Like, I wouldn't just sit there in silence and stare at them and like don't talk. Like, that'd be weird.
But no, like workroom walkthroughs. We're not time in the hotel.
No. We're different places. We're different. Like, and they're in lockdown. Like, if they're at home, they're at home. You're either like the time of their time on the show is either in a room or in another room. And so and that's, I'd imagine that's quite tough at times, but it's, what happens when you go on the show. But no, it's like, it wasn't like cold, don't talk to me type of vibes, but it is definitely, you just get nervous. You would show any kind of favoritism, which is like not a thing I wanted to do, because I do think I am obsessed with all of them. Like, that's the interesting thing I think about it being this first season is, it's kind of some of the best ones around, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a kind of a murderer's row of, like, even from the get-go, they were all pretty incredible. So it was like those first few weeks were occasionally tough to, like, because the expectation was so high and the delivery was so high, but you still are like, the word we always use is elevation.
Yes.
Anyways.
Well, that leads me to my next question. So they were all fantastic. You were there to judge. So based off everything you've seen, everything you know of all 10 of them and the performance on the show, if you had to pick one out of the entire 10 that you think should and deserves to be the winner, who do you think it would be? I
mean, I'm absolutely not doing that. But I can give you like some honorable mentions. Like,
all right, come on, give us some honorable mentions.
No, like,
then.
I think specific looks that I really loved over the time, like, Something a really interesting thing has happened, I think, is I love seeing the looks, like when eliminated queens, and this happens with the American show as well, like eliminated queens showing you what they would have done.
Like, oh yeah, I love seeing that
with certain things. Like, I saw JoJo's headpiece one was pretty incredible. I loved, like, one of my favorite looks, like I said, Art's looks. I mean, it was so long ago that we filmed it as well. Art's headpiece look, I think, was just one of the most beautiful. That top 4 lineup, Rue even said it on the show, is like, I can't wait for people to be drawing this, because it was, when they were, all 4 of them were standing there, it was like watching a All-Stars season. Like, it was just, everything was so intricate, and like, I don't know, I keep going on about it, but yeah, Arts, when she walked around the corner with the butterflies, it was like, I think Keita has had some like incredible creative and weird looks. Like, the one that really sticks with me as well is like Coco's, I mean, it was the look that she went home in, but I really loved it. The bogan formal, was that the thing?
Yep.
Like,
yeah,
where it was like a purple number, and she had this big hair and the dirty knees. It's like, that to me is what Australian drag is like, it's in the details. Like, these little camp, like, oh, she's been on her knees. Like, that's a funny joke that she also, like, I could, Coco's face, like, just, God damn it, Coco's face. Every time she'd come down the runway, it was like, Michelle was obsessed with her face as well. Like, that bitch can paint. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give you a specific one because that's not my job. And the great thing as well is we're now up to the point in the series where I don't have any secrets anymore. Like, I knew who the top 4 were. I don't know who's won, so I don't have secrets anymore. So
yeah, no one knows who's won.
Yeah.
So we just wait until the announcement, and I mean, even the winner, and even you and Michelle have to wait until it's announced and watch it live on TV.
I know.
Great.
Bit of fun.
Yeah. So as we talked about some good things with the queens, could you tell me, what do you think, I suppose, the biggest misstep that one of the queens made, where they could have, if they just hadn't done that, they probably could have seen themselves do better?
I think generally, this is maybe what happens sometimes. This is just a general observation, I think, of all Drag Race sometimes, I think, is that you start performing for the show, as opposed to, like, you start doing, what's the show going to want me to do you think? Or what's the fan base going to want me to do, and not what I'm, you know what I mean? Like, any kind of major missteps that we saw the competition wise during the show is always like, I think Karen from Finance is by far one of the best drag queens in the country, and incredible. But I think she is someone, because she takes this so seriously, as she should. It's her job. It's her art form. Occasionally got lost, and Art did the same thing as well. These kind of get lost in what they're doing within the show and just trying to win the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas, and I'm trying not to be specific. I shouldn't be specific about certain queens, like, at all, but they're just the first ones to come, because they're one of our critiques of Karen last week was that, we kind of need to see more Karen. I think that is the main thing that gets in people's heads sometimes, is that, I've gotten here, I've gotten to the show, I need to stay in the show, so I need to do this and I need to, like, and they get lost of what I love about Australian drag, or Australasian drag, is it's character based. It's about playing a character. It's not about, being a fishy queen and like lip syncing perfectly to Beyonce. It's about, no, I am this character, I'm holding this character, and whatever I do is going to make sense to that character. And I think sometimes people in Drag Race get lost in what they're doing, if that makes any sense, I think. And I think any of the major missteps competition-wise have been because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think internationally we see that. And I suppose with the evolution of the show, the biggest problem I think that comes from is where there are less make it challenges and more bringing it from home, where they're so focused on the list they've been given beforehand and creating this, that they've spent months beforehand. They finally get there and everything's on their list, and that's what they had to do. I think if we have more,
and you see it, you see it in every creative industry. Like, when I'm writing a stand-up show to tour, there's always a bit of me that's like, I want to push boundaries. That's what I always want to do. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to also push people away. And so you have to find this like middle point of selling, like the concept, because we work in a business. This is a business. We work in a business. So you've got to make things sellable, but at the same time, you've also got to keep moving forward creatively and not losing the kind of spark of what makes your work your work.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of your work, let's go back to your work. You have your Netflix special out at the moment, which people can see on the Netflix, which I watched the other day, which is fantastic. What else is in the mix for you?
I'm making a show for, I'm in a show for Netflix at the moment called The Imperfects, that's being filmed in Vancouver. It's like a sci-fi comedy dramedy. Bit of fun. I'm playing a geneticist. Don't have to do an accent, so don't worry. And what else am I doing? I can't wait to come home and just start. I haven't done stand-up in 6 months, and it's like the main thing between Drag Race and then filming this show. I've just been away for a long time, and I just can't wait to get home to Melbourne and start putting a new show together for all the comedy festivals next year. I co-own a comedy club in Melbourne called the Comedy Republic, and I think I'm just going to go and perform there every night for a couple months and just get better and get good at stand-up again is the plan at the moment. Because I've just been working for 6 months and I'd like a bit of time off, but at the same time do some fun work.
Sounds great.
What else? Yeah, I've done some writing on some TV shows recently, and a few little things, lots of little things around.
Now, speaking of coming home, you have a fiance. Is he waiting for you at home? Is he overseas with you?
He's waiting for me at home. I've not seen him since the 8th of January. And I would like to see him very much, just because of the way that the world works at the moment. It's like he's running our comedy club, and it's been pretty open and closed in Melbourne at the moment, so he's had a lot to do. And if he was to come over here, it would be 2 weeks in quarantine and then 2 weeks of quarantine the other side of it, so it just doesn't really make any sense. But we miss each other very much.
Oh, I bet. And what does he think of your time on Drag Race? Is he a Drag Race fan as well?
Yeah. Well, actually, I was talking to, I'm going to drop a name now, Jinx Monsoon, the other day. And we were talking about how Jinx, weirdly, is my gateway drug to Drag Race. I met Jinx before I'd ever watched the show in like 2015, maybe. She was in Adelaide doing the Fringe Festival, and Joel Creasy introduced me to her, and then we were became mates. And I was like, I should go home and I should watch this show. Like I've heard of this Drag Race show. And so whatever, she was in season 4, right? Or 5? 5. She was in 5. Because Bianca's 6 and people was there. And I was cooking dinner one night and watching it because I got addicted to it straight away. Like, I think it's one of those shows that people either take to or don't take to at all. There's no middle ground. No one has a passing interest in Drag Race. And my partner was walking past and was like, what is this? Because with no context, it's bonkers. If you were to just show,
Absolutely.
And he's a pretty he's pretty mask, my boyfriend, my fiance, he's not, a straight man, but he's not as interested in musical theater as I am. Let's say that. He fixes things around the house and puts spiders in jars to get them out of the house, as opposed to me moving house. But he was trying to work out what is this show, and then we finally sat down and watched it, and he became addicted. So yeah, it's been fun watching. He didn't want any spoilers when we were filming it, so I didn't tell him anything. So when I talked to him on a Sunday morning, he's like, okay, so tell me about, he wants to know all the gossip as well. It's very funny.
Oh, that's very cute. Have you guys got a date set?
Well, we were to get married, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was going to be May, but that didn't work out because of a global health crisis. So, but we've been engaged since before the plebiscite. We've been engaged for a long time. So I think 5 years now, actually, maybe. We've been together for 10, engaged for 5. So, we can wait a little bit longer. Gay people have waited thousands of years. We can wait a bit longer.
Absolutely. Well, the wait is almost over. We have the crowning of the first ever Drag Race Down Under superstar is going to be on this Saturday, streaming live on Stan, of course. Where are you going to be watching the show from? Your hotel room in Vancouver, all on your own?
I will be watching it, having consumed a legal amount of marijuana and eating a pizza. That has become my traditional, because it's on over here at about 11 p.m. at night on a Friday night. So weed is legal here, so I have a little drag of my vape and I watch Drag Race and eat a pizza. And that is nicer than it sounds, and I'm not depressed. Don't worry. That does make me sound like I'm depressed, but it's a celebratory thing. I drank margaritas last week. Anyways,
beautiful.
I can't wait. I genuinely can't wait, though. I genuinely can't wait. Like it's been, a long time coming, this show. Like they've been working on it for a long time, like to bring it to Australia. And I love the girls. I love all the girls that have been on this show. I think you need to like support them, and also go and, I mean, this is technically not following the company line, but like go and don't worry about only Drag Race. Go and watch some shows this week. Like if you love Drag Race, go please after the finale and celebrate by hitting up the local gay bars in your area safely and watch some drag shows, because there are so many incredible queens out there doing incredible things, and support the queens that are on the show, but also support the queens that are off the show, and just go and do it.
Beautiful. The perfect sentiment, because drag in Australia is just so much and so many things, and it's more than just Drag Race. And Drag Race is, I suppose, a great front for the show. It's a great door to open for people to get out there and just see more. So
no one on the show claims that, like, I've always found this interesting, even like before the Australian one came along, that it's always like, well, Drag Race isn't all that there is about drag. And I feel like at no point has anyone on that show ever said, well, this is all there is to drag, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like no one looks at Survivor and is like, well, that's all it is, living near a beach. Like, there's other things.
Absolutely. Well, Rhys, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you very, very much for taking the time with us from all the way over in Canada. Everybody else out there, you can go and you can follow Rhys on his social medias. Which one are you most active on? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook?
Instagram, I reckon. Burn Twitter down.
All right. Excellent. Burn Twitter down. Go follow Rhys on Instagram. And while you're there, of course, make sure you follow us, Q News, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and hit the buttons down here to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be back in the very near future with our final 4 of Drag Race Down Under, as well as a special chat afterwards with our winner and our runner-up. Thank you very much for your time. I am Michael James for Q News, and I will see you next time.